could have just admitted that you were wrong, you misspoke, and that a mistake happened and he shouldn't be locked out of his computer. You could admit that you didn't know why he was locked out of his computer and that you would look into it. You could have handled it so differently. But no, he's got to be that way about it. And I don't think it matters how smart you are if you have like the people skills of a soaking wet blanket. Hello, HatPie here, and I just wanted to say real quick, if you've been enjoying my content, please remember to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and follow me on Twitch so you can always catch us when we're live and see more content. Also, if you are new here, welcome in, and if you're enjoying the video, please remember to like it because it helps me out a lot. I also post funny clips and other things on TikTok. All the links are in the description below, and thanks again. Now let's get into the video. There was definitely a gap in content on YouTube, and I apologize for that. I did put a community post saying that I was going to be gone for a week. I don't know how many people actually see those, but I just really needed a mental spacer, you know? I've been going pretty hard for like 6 months, and I just needed to take a breath, and kind of had a lot going on house-wise and personally, so I just needed a moment to kind of like address things, handle some stuff, and get to a more resilient place. And I feel like I have. So that's awesome. YouTube video should start tomorrow, Tuesday the 14th again, is the plan. And then just kind of roll from there. Picking up in the series where I left off a week ago. So yeah, everything should start slowly flowing again now that I'm back. But I really appreciated the time away. Anyone who was missing me, I'm sorry. But like I said, just had to take care of myself, take care of me for a moment, and I really appreciate everyone who understands that. And it's coming back, and, you know, didn't forget about me in a week. So that's awesome. The first thing we're going to look at, though, is it looks like Elon Musk is just one of those people. It's from this interaction to me, it seems like he just can't admit when he might be wrong. You know, when he might have made a mistake. Anytime someone might have made a mistake, there's basically two options. You know, you could double down even harder, because ego felt attack and you felt insecure for a moment. It's like a wounded animal. You're lashing out, letting your spinal cord do the thinking. Or you could acknowledge that you were wrong and try and learn genuinely from the experience and grow genuinely from the experience. It's really hard to always choose that one. Admittedly, it's super hard. But it's ultimately way more rewarding for not just you as an individual, but everyone involved. So like it's objectively the better choice. So we're going to take a look at that aspect of Elon Musk in this video by Some Ordinary Gamers. Make sure this is cool.
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and boy oh boy do I like looking at dumpster fires, train wrecks, okay, crash landings. You know, it's one of those things where no human being can actually look away from. But Elon Musk is one of those interesting characters where, like, years ago I used to like kind of look at him and be like, oh, he's kind of like the Iron Man dude, you know, he just builds weird stuff like...
Yeah, I definitely, when I was younger, I thought Elon Musk was super cool. I wanted a Tesla for a while, but it didn't take very long for me to learn a little bit more about him and his like past that and I don't mean just like the emerald mines and apartheid. I mean like his like business tactics in the past, you know, his history of promising big and delivering small, basically, which tracks throughout his career. And then I started to, I don't know, just see some crazy rich dude, and then the more time went on, I realized he was just a rich Redditor, which is like way worse.
Like flamethrowers and like tunnels with Teslas in them, and makes cars fully self-drivable. Cool guy, all right? Seems like he knows what he's talking about. And of course, the more and more you look into like what Elon Musk has been doing ever since he bought Twitter, you kind of realize that, whoa, time to whittle it on back. The guy has some weird sussy takes. You know, we can look at a lot of Elon Musk's projects like The Boring Company, where the dude wants to build tunnels, which some of them appear to be scrapped, most notably in the state of California and the state of DC. You know, projects where basically Elon Musk drills these tunnels where eventually Teslas drive through them. Autopilot, apparently. And you might be wondering, as an engineer, right? Like, you don't even have to be an engineer. You could just play 5 seconds of Factorio and realize trains are just better for this purpose. Far more optimal. Hey, Elon, you want to get 500 people to the center of the city without a traffic jam? It's called a train, all right? You run some trains. But I guess for a man that runs one of the most overvalued automobile companies, I'm pretty sure it's great for him to just keep pushing the ideas of cars over public transit, okay?
Yeah, also, like, mass public transit is way better for the environment. That's, like, the real number one thing about that, and why other countries that have, you know, either more walkable cities or just more commutable cities, they have heavy investments in trains, bullet trains, electric trains, high-speed trains that can go damn near the speed of planes, or pretty close. Closer than you'd probably think, and it's way better for the environment, especially in the case of electromagnetics. And obviously, if the grid still relies on fossil fuels, then you're pulling from there. But it's much less than a massive amount of cars with individual, you know, rankings for emissions, but all subject to, like, you know, a general emission standard. It's much better for the environment and for the community for that sort of situation. Which is why in our biggest cities like Chicago, New York, you're going to see more trains, because it's a literal necessity when it gets to a certain point of population. If we applied the same logic, you know, proactively in an effort against climate change, we could actually do a lot to, you know, lower our emissions.
Okay, look, I like cars too. But if we're talking about optimal transit, trains, buses.
Yeah.
But of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just the boring company. Obviously, if you're a Tesla driver, you've probably heard of something known as the full self-driving package, which I'm just going to play something from 3 years ago on Tesla Autonomy Day, where Elon talks about making $30,000 off of a feature known as robotaxi.
You say, what would be the probable gross profit from a single robotaxi? We think probably something on the order of $30,000 per year. And we expect that we're literally designing, we're designing the cars the same way that commercial semi-trucks are designed.
Okay, hold on. So now I'm confused. Is a robotaxi for, like, taxi companies to hire suites of these things? So they it's like, what, a $70,000 car, and in 3 years you've paid off your loan, ideally, but you haven't because you have to keep the lights on. But, like, that's the idea. You just buy autonomous cars to do taxi services. But then he mentions semi-trucks as if he wants to make them big and haul, like, massive amounts of materials across the country autonomously, which seems like a bad idea.
Semi-trucks are all designed for a million-mile life, and we're designing the cars for a million-mile life as well.
Now, you might be like, whoa, Muda, what's he talking about with $30,000 a year? Now, if you don't know, Tesla cars come with full self-driving. I don't even think you can legally call it full self-driving. It's basically really, really fancy cruise control. And basically, if you bought it back in the day for $10,000 or up to like 20,000 Canadian, which is what it's running at right now, last I checked, then your car has the ability to drive itself technically on the roads. Now, you still need to be there, okay? In fact, Tesla's gotten a lot of heat lately, okay? Given the fact that they had to, like, be forced to update their software because of apparent bugs in the actual thing. Yes, who would have thought that beta software that's driving on...
Yeah, there was a bug where, like, it only registers people if they're actually using the crosswalks. It doesn't really take into account the possibility of jaywalking, which is, like, a whole thing with driving. Like, what, are you serious? Also, accidents happen. There was another thing, I believe, where, like, a lot of these AIs are, like, inherently a little racist because they have a harder time picking up darker skinned people, and so darker skinned people actually run a higher risk of being hit by these. But it's like that's how, like, but a lot of the testing and stuff is done with white people, and so, like, it's not something that's necessarily caught
on public,
and it's not necessarily something that's perfected before it's pushed to market.
Roads has some bugs in it. I know, shocking indeed. Cars breaking out of nowhere. A lot of things can go wrong. And of course, you might be wondering, well, Muda, robotaxis 3 years ago, why haven't they shown up now? Well, it's because if you're following Elon and riding him really hard, you forget to realize that for this to get past a regulator, it needs to be 100% feature proof, okay? If you, like, it needs to be 100% like bug proof. Sorry, that's the better term.
That individual who's driving that car and that stopped, if that was like any sort of company's car, massive lawsuit, incredibly massive lawsuit, devastating the company right there. Like, just like, oh, you had a ghost car? Oh, well, your ghost car caused like a 14 car pileup, so you're paying for all of that, you idiot.
Basic safety stuff. Now, of course, when it comes to a lot of this fully self-driving technology or autopilot technology too, I don't think it'll ever actually be perfect. I don't think we'll ever reach a point where you can truly fall asleep in a car and get from point A to
Hell
point B.
no.
Because I think there's a
no.
lot of variables that can go wrong when vehicles are moving at such a fast speed, right? I'm not saying that I'm against the technology. It would be really cool, but you'd have to find some way for this technology to be completely 100% foolproof, and you need to find a way for it to communicate with other cars that are also fully self-driving. Some weird open framework of communication so cars can at least try to...
I think AI in cars is best used supplementally, not as a replacement for the driver, because the more you try and replace the driver, the less attentive the driver is going to be, because the more it's going to expect the car to handle things. It's much better as a supplemental thing, like, you know, ABS, pumping the brakes faster than you possibly could, or, you know, things like that. Things where it's like helping the driver maintain control in ways that a driver could not do as fast or as quickly, or like sudden braking, you know, stuff like that. You know, things like that are ideal to me, but once it get, or like blind spot monitoring is fantastic, but I think there definitely reaches a point where if you cross a line, people are just going to phone it in, because now they're like, the car does it, so I don't have to worry about it, and they'll pay less attention. And so I don't see any way to break through that threshold of technology without like massive casualties, which would make all the companies pull back and people never get through it. And I think that's fine. I don't think no one should be going to sleep in a car.
Correct
After the
themselves
wheel.
or communicate with each other when they're traveling at such high speeds. So of course this robotaxi shit didn't go anywhere because of course regulators aren't just going to accept this technology when it hasn't completely proven itself. Let's talk about what's happened recently. Now of course where things get truly spicy in this situation is Elon has gotten into a spat with somebody in the company, or I guess used to be in the company, known as Haraldur Thorleifsson. Okay, so basically this is somebody that sold a company to Twitter for some crazy sum. I think it was like a couple $1 million. I've seen people throw 100 million around, but I think he actually accepted a low payout. This guy is the kind of dude that once he got paid out by Twitter, no joke, instead of paying capital gains tax, which he would have paid very little on, he decided to take the money as salary so he could be taxed at a higher rate to support the people in the country because of the benefits that they provide. And of course, he's won like Person of the Year and so on in their own countries. This is overall appears to be a pretty good dude. And they know what they're talking about when it comes to, again, computer software engineering. So of course, Elon gets into a spat with this guy. He says, "Hey, dear Elon Musk, 9 days ago, the access to my work computer was cut with about 200 other employees. However, your head of HR is not able to confirm if I'm an employee or not. You've not answered."
By the way, this latest wave of like layoffs and stuff actually brings Elon over the 75% threshold that he initially said, I'm going to let go of 75% of Twitter's workforce. Then everyone was like, oh, that's terrible. Absolutely not. What the hell is wrong with you? That's literally going to crash the website. And then he was like, all right, not that much. That's crazy. I was just, you know, I don't know what I was thinking. Well, he did do it. Over 75% of the original workforce from before he took over Twitter is now gone. And it's happening in haphazardly broken ways where we've seen, you know, people that weren't supposed to be fired were fired. People didn't know if they were fired or not. That's still apparently happening. And this guy was not only Time Magazine's Person of the Year, but also like a lead, a literal code lead, code engineering lead.
Answered my emails. So of course, Elon's like, what work have you been doing? To which Haraldur's like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna have to break confidentiality if I'm gonna answer that. Can your lawyers give me that in writing? Elon's like, sure, go ahead. Now, of course, then he proceeds to tell him what he did, which is he led the effort to save $500,000 on one software as a service contract. And of course, he led prioritization of design projects. Now, of course, also led design crits, hiring manager, so on and so forth. And Elon's like, wait a minute, picture it didn't happen. Yeah, he's really going to post company internal documents publicly.
Also,
right?
even in Elon's response, he disregards this. So save the company $500,000 and then level up what design. So he's only acknowledging the second tweet. We haven't hired design roles in 4 months. Worked on efforts to steer company away from focusing on power users onto younger users. What changes did you make to help with the youths? Oh my god. Man, suggested that people stop following you. Would you say that you're a people person? What?
Picture it didn't happen. Yeah, he's really gonna post company internal documents publicly, right? Like that's.
What does that even mean?
That
Would you
sense,
say
buddy.
you're a people person?
Of course, he gets into this public shaming session, which is super duper wild. And of course, it just comes across as incredibly unprofessional. So of course, what's wild here is then he gets into the reality is that this guy, who is independently wealthy, did no actual work, claimed as his excuse that he had a disability that prevented him from typing, yet was simultaneously tweeting up a storm. Can't say I have a lot of respect for that. You know, I don't know if this guy's being intentionally obtuse in this.
Yeah, no. I think, and that's even weirder because he's like independently wealthy. Like Elon's trying to shame or throw shade at someone for being wealthy. Is that because you feel like everyone's just mad at you because you're wealthy? Because yes, some of it is that you're wealthy, but a lot of it is how you got wealthy because you're so wealthy. Like he's a billionaire. There is no way you can be a billionaire without engaging in massive exploitation. It's not possible. So, again, missing the point there, but that's not surprising. He's probably intentionally missing the point, you know, that's just kind of how it works, just trying to redirect the lightning for a moment. But, and his disability, you know, specifically hinders him after long typing sessions, which is why he was in a managerial position. Also, his previous experience and the fact that he is so good at his job. All these things were why a management position was better suited for him. And, you know, obviously, I suffer from carpal tunnel, nothing like what he goes through at all. But I can tell you right now that if I'm having a carpal tunnel flare-up, this does not hurt nearly as bad as this does. It's not even close because the way I'm resting my arm, the way my wrist is bent, the fact that like I'm using all of my fingers, which is like flexing all of these tendons here in my wrist, like it's not even close. And Elon's either an idiot for not understanding that, or how typing on a phone is fundamentally different. You can use a single finger if you need to and do slowly. You can swipe even. You can speak into your phone. Okay? You can literally just say, okay, Google, and then, oh God. Yeah. And then dissertate everything you want to say. And it will, like, we don't even know that the guy typed it, but he's assuming he did because it fits his narrative. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Where you can't really do that with code because code is abstract. It's not words. Most AI for dictation is built around the idea of written language, not around the idea of written code.
See, Elon Musk pretty much benefits off of like the intellectual void that exists within his fan base because they don't even understand concepts as simple as that, all right? That people can actually, you know, use computers, all right, write paragraphs, and it's a pretty big difference between writing code versus writing actual, like, you know, written literature or written word. But of course, what's interesting is then he gets into the idea that he's talking about as like, you know, actual disabilities. So of course, he mentions the fingers, which was rather interesting in this situation, which Elon criticized him for. And it was like, yes, I can write for an hour or two at a time. And that wasn't a problem before Elon showed up because he was pretty much a senior director and his job was basically leading by guidance.
Yeah.
And basically he was mostly a strategic.
He was leading projects. Yeah. Assessing, you know, requirements as well as deliverables and ensuring that these things were handled and met in a timely manner. Probably in a lot of meetings with team leads and other engineers trying to discuss where things were at and where, talk about where they need to go. It's a very fundamental part of any engineering team.
And tactical guidance dude than just a standard like code jockey. Of course, it's understandable, all right? And of course, Elon jumps into it and pretty much at some point, now deleted, mentions him being the worst, okay? Sorry, he's the worst, which, Jesus Christ, dude. Talk about having like a public meltdown when you could have just called the dude up on the phone.
Yeah.
Now, of course,
You could have just admitted that you were wrong, you misspoke, and that a mistake happened and he shouldn't be locked out of his computer. You could admit that you didn't know why he was locked out of his computer and that you would look into it. You could have handled it so differently. But no, he's got to be that way about it. And it's... I don't think it matters how smart you are if you have like the people skills of a soaking wet blanket. You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to work with you or for you because you treat people like garbage and refuse to actually take the time to understand anything. You just seem to throw your preconceived notions and ideas into the air and assert that you will make it happen with your money. It's crazy. It's actually like a bad movie character. Like, it's like the writing is not even that good. And it's truly disappointing that there are people that devoid of any personality or humanity. Like, he's like a comic book rich asshole.
ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons that I wanted to make this video too is I really don't like it when Elon talks out of his ass on something that he really doesn't have any idea
exactly,
about.
but he does it all the time.
Now, one of the things that really wilded me out about Elon Musk is the guy pretends to know what he's talking about when in reality he has no actual clue on what's going on with
Clearly.
This is a dude that spent $44 billion on something.
And like, let's just say he admitted it for a second and said, it's because I'm wrapped up in Tesla, it's because I'm wrapped up in this other stuff. That's actually understandable. He does have a lot going on. All the more reason for one person to not be leading all these things. One person should not have all this power. One person should not have all these companies, you know? But he's like physically incapable of admitting any sort of shortcoming, fault, misunderstanding, or flaw. And he has enough money that he's been able to get away with it for so long. And he has unfortunately been elevated to a position because of some viral moments to where he can now inflict some real damage on the rest of us with his broken mentality.
He has no idea how to work with. So to explain something, a couple days ago, there was a problem with Twitter's API. It caused a lot of, I believe, external facing links to just shit the bed. And of course, what happened was, one engineer who worked on it, apparently they only had like one site reliability engineer working on a site as large as Twitter of all
Holy
things,
shit.
where effectively they had made a bad configuration change and broke the Twitter API.
Back out the change.
Now, of course,
back out the change. Why didn't you just back out the change? How hard was it to back out the change?
ladies and gentlemen, for a site as big as Twitter, you expect that they should have multiple employees working on something like this.
Definitely.
Not one person, of all things, Jesus Christ. But of course, Elon comes in and talks about, uh-oh, there was an API issue, Jesus Christ. The code stack is extremely brittle for no good reason. We'll ultimately need a complete rewrite. Now, Elon is the kind of middle management dude that I swear to God would pop into an office or something.
Code is not like a building. It's not really like that. It's not like they were trying to replace a wall in one room and they took out the wall and the entire building fell down. That's not how code works. It's abstract. Code is like an equation or a translation. And you replaced one word and completely changed the answer that was received or the meaning of the phrase. You know what I mean? What? Oh my, how does he understand that little about coding? It's brittle. What do you mean? It's not physical, you moron. Like, it's completely conceptual. It is an abstract concept. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, we have to rewrite the entire code. Okay, buddy. Just okay, buddy.
Something with
you do that, and let's see how quickly you get another Twitter back up.
Programmers and be like, yo, bro, is everything going good? And just to shut up middle management, you'd be like, yeah, dude, it's compiling. Yeah, oh, the code's rendering, bro. Don't worry about it, dude. It's all going fine, man. We're just defragging the code base. And he's like, oh yeah, bro, that's cool. Defrag the code base. All right, come back in an hour, dude.
Someone's hacked into Twitter's mainframe. Our circuits are everywhere. They're gone. We're gonna have to rewire the ground to the processing unit and reboot the RAM drive.
That kind of guy, okay? He walks in, pretends to know what they're talking about, and very easily fooled. So, of course, when he mentions the code stack is extremely brittle, a bunch of people jerk
Elon Musk is literally a walking ID10T.
this off like, oh yeah, maybe things do need a full rewrite. So I'm going to just ask the question, what is a code stack? What is a tech stack in this case? Now, Elon uses a lot of these like fancy terminologies, they're not really that fancy, in order to sound smarter. And that's where I want to ask. You know, if I'm going to give you a quick example of what is a stack real quick, imagine you're working on like a public web service, right? One of your stacks would be Linux, Apache, SQL, PHP, so to speak, right? So you would use these tools because it's a lot easier than writing your own operating system, its own kernel, your own web server tool, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
In fact, even your own programming language. So of course, imagine if you're building a web service, you're going to use what's already there. That basically is your code or tech stack, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if you're doing something specialized, you'll probably start writing something on your own, and that becomes your stack. For something as large as Twitter, obviously it's going to have a stack of its own, and it's just going to build upon it. What's also interesting about this situation too is it's kind of like game development. Like I know people who used to complain about like, oh, COD runs on the same engine every year. And
reinventing an engine though, like, is so hard. It's so hard. You like engines are code, and when you're starting with your own engine, you have nothing. You literally have nothing. You don't have gravity, you don't have light, you don't have shadows. You don't have anything. When you go into Unreal Engine, there's a lot of things that are already there because the engine's been built, okay? Gravity, walking animations, those things are already there. When you start from scratch, none of that exists at all. You have to first you have to create a place out of nothing with code. Then you have to tell that place its rules. And then you have to add things to that world that will inevitably show you your rules don't work and don't cover all bases and are incredibly flawed, and you have to just do this crazy back and forth. I used to watch a lot of game development videos, and I really wanted to make my own game in Unreal Engine, but it is such a labor of love. It is an incredible, you have to be incredibly knowledgeable. I felt very inadequate when I was watching those how-to videos and hearing people discuss things and watching them do things, and that's, from what I understand, really normal at the very beginning, but it's incredible how much these people know and understand. And I can't even imagine when it comes to like literal web development.
I used to be like that too until I realized software development is very difficult.
Oh God,
and
yeah.
Even though the bones of code bases exist in any modern tool, any modern game, any modern project,
it's not always plug and play.
It's existing there because ultimately it serves as a base for a project. Something as large as Twitter doesn't exist out of nowhere. It's built upon something that has taken several years to manifest. Now, one of the things that I can sympathize with Elon out about this is obviously there is a severe amount of technical debt that goes into something like Twitter. Now, technical debt isn't all bad necessarily, but the idea is the more you work on a project, and let's be realistic here, not everyone follows perfect programming guidelines, okay? Not everyone's optimizing their code, not everyone's doing the best that they can.
Well, okay.
Sometimes to meet your deadlines, to meet crunch, sometimes
sure.
you just do what you got to do. You slap a band-aid on and call it a day. The more and more you keep doing that, the more and more brittle your code tends to become. Now, Twitter hasn't appeared to look like that. It's actually quite impressive to see a service as large as Twitter take so many requests and deal with them. So, of course, when Elon talks about an API issue, what baffles me is they are working on actual changes to the site. And instead of testing it in a test environment,
which most companies do. I have worked with several companies and networks where, if not an entire replica of the network is created, either virtually via virtual licenses or physically in a lab, you literally replicate the actual production environment exactly, and you implement the change to see what will happen. And even that is not always going to give you a one-to-one. Sometimes something will happen differently in production than the test environment, but that is a very common practice in companies much smaller than Twitter. that make much, much less money than Twitter to ensure that, you know, things stay up. There's been mitigation plans and methods and practices in place to avoid that sort of disaster for a while. But it's a lack of investment in time and a lack of investment in resources preventing Twitter from doing that. There's no way they could adequately have a test environment or a replicated production environment with over 75% of their original workforce fired and confusion on whether or not current employees still work there. Sometimes they're losing access to things. Sometimes they don't have access to offices. All of it. There's no way. There's absolutely no way you can adequately run a business, let alone, you know, manage a network in that situation.
Push this out to the public live environment, especially on times where there's actual like high amounts of users, not even like maybe the least usage of their services when they're pushing this stuff out so they can quickly catch errors and like fix them up. No, they just push it out to live. And there we go. Issues prop up. Surprisingly, I know, nobody questioned it. And then suddenly we're getting into this idea that the code base is brittle. Anybody that tells you to rewrite an entire stack of code, to rewrite the entire tool, doesn't actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Because if you look at like the history of all this stuff too, there is a great example in terms of something known as Netscape. Now, Netscape, for those of you who don't know, during the browser wars was one of the largest web browsers at the time.
Yeah, actually, I like when he said that, my brain was like, why do I know that? Like, okay. This must have been back when I was like a kid.
And when it came to like, I think Netscape 6.0, they wanted to do like they wanted to just rewrite the whole thing. And one of the excerpts I'm going to read from this massive like write-out is, it's important to remember that when you start from scratch, there is absolutely no reason to...
I haven't heard about Netscape in over a decade. Yeah, like I feel like I can almost picture a logo. Like, he said that and my brain was like, that's something I've heard before. You know what I mean? Like, you remember that you remember something, but that's literally it. Like, I was vaguely aware of the concept, but like, I don't know.
Believe that you are going to do a better job than you did.
You want to hear something crazy? We had Earthlink internet. I don't know if you remember Earthlink. Like, Ask Jeeves. Oh my god, that's crazy. Holy shit. Yeah, we had Earthlink internet, gateway computes. Oh man, America Online. That's the classic one.
You probably don't even have the same team that worked on version 1, so you don't actually have more experience. You're just going to make more of the same old mistakes again. And it's true. When you fire so many engineers out of Twitter...
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're actually seeing a huge problem with video games because of this lately. Like, it's becoming... Especially, I think there was a big problem with Halo Infinite, or... One game I played recently that came out, but one of its biggest problems ended up being like, you know, companies don't want to have full-time employees, because if they have a full-time employee, they have to give you benefits. Not only do they have to give you benefits in forms of insurance, you have to be guaranteed things like paternity leave, vacation pay, overtime, all these things, factor in now. Well, I guess overtime less so of your salary, but they don't want to have full-time employees, so they go with contractors. They go with contractors because you can terminate basically most contracts at any time, more or less, if you want, as the employer. You're not going to have to give them benefits. If anyone's going to give them benefits, it's probably going to be their contracting/recruiting company. You don't have to guarantee them necessarily the same amount of sick leave or paternity leave at all. You don't have to do any of that crap. And there was a game that came out where they were, you know, obviously trying to do that, but no contractor's going to sit in that situation forever, because the original intention with the idea of contractors was try before you buy. That's how they sold it. So the idea is you're a contractor for like 6 months to a year. If the company really likes you, now you become full-time, you get those benefits and stuff. Surprise, that never happens. They keep you contracted forever, they get rid of you. So video game companies, which they're also known for, you know, insane crunch times, short deadlines, massive amounts of work, and short or small skeleton crew teams. So you're talking about people who are working easily 70, 80 hours a week minimum. You do that for 6 months, and then they just terminate the contract because there's no way you're going to put up with the shit any longer without better treatment, and then they just get a new batch of contractors. But now we have a problem where this group of people had these great ideas for this game. They were building this game, fleshing out ideas. Maybe the community even got to see a couple videos here and there, promotionals, and it looked great. But now, all of a sudden, all of those people are gone. There isn't a single brain that was tied to those original ideas there, and it's a whole new batch of brains. And they see half-form ideas, but the way their brains might complete those ideas and connect all those dots present is probably, for certain, almost not going to be the same way that first batch would have. And now imagine you keep doing this over and over again, and it happens 3 to 5 times within one game's development. It's no wonder why we end up with buggy, all over the place messes, because this is becoming common practice in the video game industry, but also in many industries, like Twitter. And so when you're doing things like this, it's impossible. Like, good ideas rely on this idea of, yeah, especially with coding. Like, any good idea, any great accomplishment relies on the idea of, like, cooperation. You know, like people coming together, working together, thinking together, and, you know, I don't know, feeling together. Like, honestly, just like doing things together. And if you're constantly swapping who the people are, the idea is never going to stay consistent, because that hive mind isn't getting a chance to form around the concept, around the goal, around the idea. It's just like, I don't know. I really don't understand what Elon's expecting. Just admit you were like being an asshole to this guy on Twitter too. Like, good lord.
Guys, when you're firing an engineer, you're not just firing somebody that's writing code. Any monkey could write code. But good code is written by people that have institutional knowledge. It's not as simple as going to Tesla and bringing like AI engineers that write self-driving car software suddenly working on a web service. That's just not how it works. Some people are experts at different fields of programming, and I think Elon not understanding that is the biggest sign of a middle management jockey that I've ever seen.
We'll just need to do a total rewrite of the whole thing.
Wait, seriously, a total rewrite. That's your prediction for velocity.
Yeah.
Well, when you say a total rewrite, do you mean starting with the skeleton, or a bunch of engineers sit down with a whiteboard and say, what is Twitter?
The second
Revolution
one.
or reform?
I mean, I just mean like literally, like there's like you could either try to amend the crazy stack that exists, or rewrite it.
But when you say,
what do you mean by rewrite?
Stack? What do you mean? Like, break it down.
Yeah.
Like, what? No, man. You're in charge of the servers and the programming, whatever. Like, what is the stack? Elon?
Keep things technical in my space, please.
Take me from top to bottom. What does the stack look like right now? What's so crazy about it? What's so abnormal about this stack versus every other large-scale system on the planet, buddy? Come on, give it to me.
All right. So first off,
amazing. Wow,
Wait.
you're a jackass.
Okay. All
right, no. I got no credibility here, buddy. I got no idea. Let's
Now, we could sit here all day and talk about this BS.
Holy
but
crap.
Honestly, I kind of want to top it off. I wanted to have my like little talk. I wanted to really just have a TED talk basically about programming in general. Just very, very basic corrections to just very, very public stupidity. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you disagree, I just want to ask you, let's have a healthy conversation in the comment sections below. But Elon is one of those guys that gives me like trust fund apartheid, emerald mine, daddy rich, gave me a lot of money, let me buy some companies. Maybe people will stop making fun of me. Maybe they'll take me seriously as some pseudoscience engineer kind of energy. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end it off right there. I think the guy is an idiot, and I think publicly shaming your employees is really, really stupid, unprofessional behavior, first off. And if you're out there defending anything that he said, I just want to ask why.
Why? Yeah, no, honestly.
Okay, that's really what I want to get down into.
Like, why are you incapable? Like, you don't have to double down on his bad ideas and cringe with him, Everyone's flawed, even people I like. Even people I look up to, there isn't a single person out there who's gonna have, even I, not that that's really a big deal. Like there isn't a person alive who's gonna have it right 100% of the time. And it takes so much pressure off of you and so much disappointment out of your life when you accept that, you know? And then the disappointment doesn't come from people messing up. It comes from how did they handle it, you know? And what does it look like their intention is once they make a mistake? And all you can really hope is that they try and do better. You know? Doesn't ever seem like Elon is. Thanks for watching, guys. Follow me on Twitch to join us live, like and subscribe, and I will catch you later.